This is TLV1.
The Tel Aviv Review.
Hello and welcome to the Tel Aviv Review. I'm your host, Galit Cohen. Every week we bring you conversations with authors about the books and research and other things that we like. And if you like us, please consider becoming a Patreon supporter by going to our homepage. That's tlv1.fm/Tel Aviv Review. Scroll down to the bottom and click the big red button that says Patreon. Click and support us. Some of you have been doing this for months and years, and we simply cannot thank you enough. This episode is part of a series in partnership with the Israel office of the Konrad Adenauer Foundation, taking a deep dive into issues that shape our lives here in Israel. My guest today is a senior research fellow at Tel Aviv University's Institute for National Security Studies and the director of the Program on Climate Change. The former Director General of the Ministry of Environmental Protection, she has contributed to numerous policy forums on climate and the environment, both in Israel and abroad, and that is for more than 20 years. Galit Cohen, hello and welcome to the Tel Aviv Review.
Thank you very much.
We tend to think about climate change or the climate crisis in terms of a series of episodes of extreme weather events rather than an ongoing strategic issue. So it's not just long heat waves or flash floods. There are potentially grave implications for national security as well. Can you tell us what they are? And I mean, generally, before we get to the specific case of Israel.
Yes. So the challenges for Israel and for, I think, other countries relating to national security issues with climate change is from both adaptation and mitigation. In the mitigation, how to reduce the carbon gas emissions is the role that the national security bodies can take to promote reducing of these carbon gas emissions. And it includes renewable energy and energy efficiency and so on. But this is something like, just regularly for all other bodies, not just securities one. But in national security bodies like military and so on, the issues of adaptation is much, much more, I think, important. And that in a way that we can think about those threats like heat waves. And when you have, tanks and there is soldiers that has to operate in the heat waves, they have to adapt with the clothes and all those equipment that they use that can let them operate in that heat waves. And there is a sandstorms that can reflect all the those equipment that we can use for taking all the information and very sensitive information with those very sensitive equipments. So, and they can, just burden from sandstorms. And we had also an experience here in Israel with floods, with super floods a few years ago, that our airplanes just, get floods and out of order now. And it's billions and trillions of dollars that the Israel military has to spend for this. So it's a lot of issues, but I always trying to see what is the opportunities. And for the military, for Israel, it's also an opportunity to take leadership in dual-use technologies and to be much more further and take the market to innovative technologies to adapt to climate change and also to mitigate. So
it's not a new thing, by the way, that the switch from mitigation to adaptation, because up until now or recently, people have been talking about reducing carbon emissions and meeting certain goals. Is that are people being so-called realistic and saying we're not going to meet these goals, we'd better adapt to a new reality?
I don't want to say that we are not there yet, because it's very important. If the globe the planet will go through more than 2 degrees. It's going to be a lot of places unlivable and very, very complicated to live in, even in our area. Our area in the Middle East, we are in hot spot. The temperature raise in more than 20% on all other places in the globe. So I don't want to say that we don't have to put our efforts for the mitigation, especially now in this week that there is the climate summit in Baku in Azerbaijan, and everybody is discussing this. But I think that for Israel, it's not less importance is the adaptation side, and especially for the national security issues.
Yeah, I was just going to say, because, places becoming uninhabitable, which would require all sorts of population transfers, etc. This is an issue of paramount national security. Not just in Israel, for any country in the world.
Especially in our area, the migration that we saw under, droughts, a lot of speaking about Syria, what happened before. And now we are trying to formulate a new study in the INSS that trying to understand what is the causes before we seeing the violence and instability regimes in our neighboring countries that probably will cause climate effects a few years before. We'll see drought, and then we'll see people moving from rural areas to the cities, and then there is a lot of complicated and instability, and then the climate is always a multiplied effect. It's not coming just alone, but if there is, it will complicate it much, much more and amplifying the effects. So in our region, this is not something that to take into account, especially if Israel is, in the Middle East, and all those countries surrounding us is, let's say, not so stabilized. And there is, of course, some countries that would like to put a lot of efforts to stabilize this area. But if there is a problem, we know in Egypt, and the price for the bread, for the pita, will raise because there is not much food or not much wheat even growing there, or even, bringing from outside, importing. So this is something that's very serious. We saw what happened before, the Arab Spring, as we call it. So yes.
So you're sort of relying on the assumption that there would be many other Arab Springs, not just Arab, but political instability that will be in the very near future tied to climate change and its effects.
That could be if we want, adapt, make all the efforts for adaptation. Mm-hmm. That could be because we know that climate change is not going anywhere. We will see the effects very often, even already. So those heat waves, drought, water shortage that we have already in this area, like we see in Jordan. There is a water shortage in Jordan already before those immigrants came from Syria and all the other countries around, and now they have so less water for each person per capita, and they must solve this problem. I hope that Israel will be involved in this, solving this problem. But yes, so there is a potential for this disaster unless we'll find a way to collaborate here together. And there is enough money, let's say, in the region, and there is enough understanding and know-how and technology in the region that if we will collaborate together, all those countries, including Saudis and UAE, and of course Jordan and Egypt and in Israel, and if we will collaborate together, we can find the solutions how to continue to live here and to, of course, to support others with all those shortages in water, in energy, and the food.
there is money, there is know-how, there is urgency. The question is whether there is a willingness, especially after the 7th of October. I mean, Israel. It seemed like Israel and the other countries have always had bigger fish to fry, as it were, right? Issues of national security and, whatever it is around the Arab-Israeli conflict. But it seems like after the 7th of October, first of all, people's attention is elsewhere, but also the willingness to cooperate has been reduced massively.
I would like to say a few things about this very complex question. I think the same answer for the, let's say, political situation, it's the same answer to deal with the climate change threats in this area. And what I mean, Israel as an isolated country. We are
an island as well.
As an island. We import all the resources needs for the living here as a Western country. We import our all the wheat, food, energy for transportation, even coal, steel. So for the energy, yes, we do have energy in our Mediterranean fields, like Leviathan and Karish and Tamar, but
natural gas.
Yeah, the natural gas, but this is also threatened by now the 7 October war, and we understand that. So, and also, of course, all other commodities that we are importing from all over the world. Actually, our supply chain is very long because we are not importing our commodities from our neighbors. Most of our commodities coming very far away. So,
but let's just stop there for a second. Supply chains are also the threat to supply chains is also a major issue when it comes to the climate crisis. Again, not just in Israel. How are we going? First of all, how can you explain how it's going to affect Israel? Not just that they're long, but in what it means in practice, and also how can we overcome that threat?
Okay, so if you continue with the supply chain, as you asked, the threats for the supply chain just from there is a climate, there is a geopolitical threats, and there is other threats that we have to take into account. We just remember the pandemics of the coronavirus, and we just saw what happened in all over the world in the supply chain, how it's disrupted, and what should countries do, and also concerning policy of those countries that just stopped the export from their countries just to keep the resources for themselves. So when we are looking about the disruption for supply chain for Israel from climate, we see that there is a problem from the resources that we are importing from, because it could be that those resources will be limited because of climate. If there is a drought in Ukraine or Russia, then probably we'll have less and less wheat to import to Israel. And what will happen then with the prices, and how we can make sure that they will continue to sell to us those wheat or other commodities, all right? It's all over. And so this one threat, and we have to do so many efforts to make sure that Israel will ensure those commodities to continue to come to Israel and support us. But of course, at the same time, we have those geopolitical threats to the supply chain. We just saw what happened in Bab el-Mandab. Now, all those routes, the maritime routes, closed. And now we have those routes should, continue all the way around Africa and then getting into the Mediterranean, 21 days to add to those commodities coming from
instead of the Red Sea and the Suez Canal.
Yes. So, and look what happened now. If we are looking regionally, it's not just about 21 days to add to those commodities to come to Israel. It's also about the Suez Canal. It's about half of those commodity used to flow from the Suez Canal are not doing it anymore. And this is very important income to the economy of Egypt. And now we are in the war. There is no income to the Egypt economy. Probably they have less and less, to support their citizens. Maybe this could also contribute to the price of this pita that we spoke before. And look what happened to the instability of the region. So it's always very, very complex. The supply chains, of course, all over the world is very, very complex, but here it's even more. So when you're looking about supply chain and you say, okay, if you have a disruption in supply chain, maybe the way to deal with this is to shorten the supply chain. Okay, if you want to shorten the supply chain for Israel, we must collaborate with our neighbors.
So it means importing from countries that are closer to
Yes,
Israel.
closer to us. Okay, this is the solution also for the climate. Because if you would like to reduce the carbon gas emissions, you would like to reduce also the supply chain, and if you will import from those neighbors countries, then you are also reducing the carbon. So, and you are, of course, contributing to the less temperature rise and so on.
You've been in government for more than 20 years, as you said. Is your impression that Israel is taking climate issues seriously?
Not enough. But as we speak today, there is a new law for the climate that just discussing in the parliament, and I think in the Knesset. I think that it will pass in the few, let's say, weeks.
What does it say?
That Israel has goals for mitigating goals, and it's not just a governmental decision that you can change it every day. It's under the law, and it's much more serious to take. Also, the government, also local authority must prepare a mitigation plan. Each ministry. And also supported by budget. And a new area is adaptation plan, also for each ministry. And the third one is that all the largest plans, strategic and very large one, will have to prepare climate risk analysis before. So this is very important, I think. We also have, just a few weeks ago, we passed the carbon tax, which is also very, very, very important, because then it should, optimize the market using the fossil fuels and promote more and more, especially the industry, to reduce the fossil fuel and move more and more to renewable energy.
Do you think that since Israel has been dealing with a geopolitical threat to its economy and prosperity, do you think that it's given it some sort of like an edge in planning how to deal with the climate change threats to the supply chains, etc.? For example, I mean, in the 1950s and 1960s, the water resources of Israel all came from neighboring countries that were enemy states and used it as some sort of diplomatic leverage. Do you think that it really affected the thinking in Israel that gave it perhaps some sort of advantage in how to think about these issues?
Yes, I think so. And in water, it's not just desalination, it's also the water recycling that we use more than 90% for irrigation all over Israel. And of course...
is Israel advanced in this sense?
The most in the world. This is something that when I used to go to the OECD, they're always asking about the Israeli know-how and experience and expertise to come to just teach. I can mention also that we had a collaboration with the US, the EPA, and they asked us, the Israel, to come to teach the US government and also local authorities, the states, how to expand then their water and sewage treatment, and then use it for the irrigation. So this is worldwide known. Of course, and we want and would like to share this knowledge and expertise with our neighbors, because what is amount of leakages of water in Jordan, it's more than 40-50%. And
So it's just water that goes to waste.
Yeah, and we can share our knowledge. We can share our technology. Of course, there is also in business efforts that we can spend. So this is one issue. But I think that in an energy there is even more room for collaboration with our neighbors, even exchanging, like this project that I hope that will continue with Jordan and the UAE to exchange between desalinated water to Jordan, then to buy renewable energy from Jordan. But this is something that we can, collaborate all over. We have also energy technology in Israel for renewables, also for energy storage. And I think that potential one is the green hydrogen, because they have a lot of room for renewable energy. They can, create the green hydrogen in their part, and with the Israeli technology maybe, and then we can, just...
What is green hydrogen?
The green hydrogen is... to separate from, in the water, you have hydrogen and oxygen. So you can just separate the hydrogen, and then you can use it for fuel. Like it's really replacing fuel. Now, still, it's very, very expensive. But if you can do this, treatment, or by using the energy from the solar, so there is, zero carbon.
Clean, yeah.
Zero carbon. And now, yes, it is still very, very expensive. But, 20 years ago, we spoke about the solar energy also like this. So probably this is something that will see this progress also in the green hydrogen. So I think there is a room for collaboration this in our region too.
From what you see, there's still a willingness on the part of our neighboring countries to engage in all sorts of cooperation and exchange of know-how with Israel again after the 7th of October?
Yeah, that's depend where we will be. Because before the 7th of October, we had a very good collaboration and there was a lot of willingness. Even if Jordan, we did with Egypt. We can see it actually with this natural gas. We're selling, from private sector to private sector. It works and it's okay. After the 7th of October, we have to see what will be the end of this war. If the end of this war will be regional cooperation with the moderated countries under the U.S. support in our region, and Israel will be a part of this coalition, and we will start to act like a part of a coalition and an isolated country. So I think there is a lot of room for this. And of course, it depends what is going to be the end, the war in Gaza, who is going to replace the Hamas there. Are they going to be, who is the civil administration that will be there? I hope that Lebanon will end it very soon with the Hezbollah, but this is depend what will go by the end of the war in the Gaza.
And what about Israel's relations with its allies elsewhere in Europe and the Western world? There's also some tension arising around the war and Israel's conduct during the war. Do you think that it might have implications for dealing with climate change?
I think that that it's not there yet. I hope that it will not get there. But I think that they're expecting from Israel much, much more. To put a lot of efforts for mitigation. We are just, 30%, our goals is 30% for 2030. All the others in the OECD countries, most of this European in there, and also US and so on, they're speaking about 40 and even more % until 2030. They would like to see us much more ambitious. This is the first one. Second is that Israel is not contributing to the green funds at all. Even Bangladesh contribute. Israel didn't.
You mean financially? Giving
Financially,
money?
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't, nothing. So this is something also, and now
Is it for a reason that Israel is not?
we don't have enough money. There is a lot of
neither does Bangladesh.
Yeah, we have a lot of priorities. And when you ask about government, if it's in priority, no, it's not enough. This is also where you see it. But I think that we are missing also opportunities here. It's not just looking, just about, okay, how you will match, how you will contribute to those funds. You won't see this money. No, it's like, the horizon in Europe and so on. Those collaboration schemes are very, very important that create also opportunities for Israeli companies and so on.
There could be a return on that investment.
Yes. Right. So we are not there. The main issue that much now in Baku in Azerbaijan is about financing and how to put much more efforts and not just $100 billion a year like it was before. Now they would like to add to even more than $1 trillion every year. Where is Israel? We are not there yet. And the third one is the adaptation. They're expecting us to make a lot of efforts and contribute to support the developing countries with all our know-how, technology, and so on. So also,
and there's not enough of that.
Not enough of that. The ODA, the Israel ODA, is very, very small. This amount of money that we also contribute to the developing countries is very small. There is a mashav in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, very, very important. Used to be Tikkun Ulam from the Golda time, but it became less and less and less budget. So they have less and less resources to support those countries. So those are what they are expecting us in a matter of climate. And I think if we will be there, then when you discuss, yes, we have something to bring to the table, and we are not just the troublemaker in the neighborhood.
Yeah, there's my impression generally is that when climate change is a government issue, it gets stuck. But when it becomes a business issue, and when it makes sense financially, like what you said about the green hydrogen earlier, that as soon as it becomes profitable, it will enhance climate change mitigation and adaptation greatly. So is there hope when you come to climate change?
Of course. And there is a lot of potential, business potential all over the world and also in Israel. But as someone who served so many years in the government, I really believe on regulation. And the regulation brings the certainty to the market. And what we don't have now is the certainty to the investors. And what I like in the climate law is giving the certainty.
The Israeli one.
The Israeli one, yes. Mm-hmm. That the Israeli technology arena, all the innovation technologies in Israel, it's not for the Israelis. Of course, it's just, here is demonstration site and you would like to sell it all over the world. But starting here and demonstrate it here, it's very, very important, even if you would like to sell it all over the world. So for the investor to understand that the government is really, serious, and they would like, and they will put a lot of efforts and budget to make sure that those goals will meet by the market, then the investors, they will be there. The business will be there. They will bring all the solutions. They just have to understand that there is certainty. Look, Tesla wouldn't succeed so much if all those countries would not give the tax reduction to get into the market those electrical cars. And it's all over. It's about solar energy and so on. Until it's going to be the break-even, the economically break-even, and then you don't have to continue to support it like we have now with the solar energy. You don't have to support it because it's the break-even. Even in Israel, it's less expensive than the natural gas. So if you would like to put power plants, It's it's even more economically. So, but at the first, to give to the market, the certainty, it's very important. This is from the regulation.
And do you think that the same applies to the incoming Trump administration that has been not very positive on climate issues?
Yeah, well, we had this, situation before in his previous administration. I think that the train is out of the station already, all over the world, and even in US. Because in US, it's complicated because they won't just wait for Trump. California, the states itself are very, very advanced, and they won't go back. So, and what was very important in Biden administration investment, the Inflation Reduction Act is supporting the basis of infrastructure for the green economy, let's say climate economy, like the support the lithium mining again, so they will have enough lithium for the storage batteries. So they now try to create all the chain, all the supply chain on those equipment that they would like to produce in US. So it's from the mining, the lithium, and then the storage and batteries, and then the EVs also itself. They would like to produce it there and not just import it from China. So this is something that is already been done, and a lot of money is put in support it. So I don't think that all over will go back. Let's say the last swing of the fossil fuels for the next few years. But as I said, the train is out of station.
Well, I always like to speak to climate change experts because they are more hopeful than I am.
We must.
It's great. Then it gives me and hopefully the listeners as well some hope. Galit Cohen, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you.
And also many thanks to Itai Shelem, the manager of TLV1 Studios, and to the Konrad Adenauer Foundation for the generous support. And now we've got a request because many or most of you listen to us on the Apple Podcasts app, and we would like to ask you to please consider writing us a review. You too can support us by going to our website and subscribing onto a Patreon campaign. Check out our archive. It has probably close to 1,000 interviews by now, if not more, probably more actually. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and most important, join us again next week for another edition of the Tel Aviv Review. And until then, from us here in Tel Aviv, goodbye.